So what is going on, guys? Kevin Durant has been traded. I do not know what to say. This has taken me just so by surprise right now. Also, if you're wondering where I am, not in my normal recording place. Hence, I haven't been recording recently. I've been redoing my room, which is where I normally record, reorganize that space. I haven't been able to set up my filming setup yet. And so that's why I haven't done a video the last few weeks. And then suddenly Kevin Durant gets traded. I'm like, I feel like I kind of have to film. So I just jumped into my dad's study because I needed something. So hence I don't have my mic or anything and it's a different background. But yeah, so Kevin Durant just got traded. I got the notification about 2 hours ago right now. The details I'm seeing is Durant and TJ Warren for Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder. 4 unprotected picks beginning this year and then a 2028 swap. That's what I've heard thus far. More details might come out by the time you're seeing this video, by the time I upload this video. But yeah, I don't really know what I'm going to talk about right now. This isn't a planned video. This is just me reacting to the whole day of trades because it has been a crazy NBA day, pre-trade deadline day. There's a lot going on. There's like 11 hours left, I think, at the moment, maybe like 12 hours until the deadline currently. So there's still a lot that's going to happen. I'm super excited, but let's just talk about what's happened today. And let's start with Kevin Durant because that is unlike anything I've ever seen. Like, it wasn't even rumored. We didn't even get like the Woj bomb that like, oh, Kevin Durant has requested a trade or teams have been calling about this. It was just Durant's been traded to Phoenix out of nowhere. I really don't know what more to say about how I've never seen a trade like that before. And overall, obviously it's a shocking trade. We'll find out more about it in the coming days. My initial thought is I think it's a great trade for Phoenix. It's a great time to go all in. I think one thing that I've been having to realize is, unlike the Kyrie trade, this isn't a rental. They've got Kevin Durant for the next 3 or 4 years. I don't think this is a trade for this season so much. I think it is a trade for this season in the fact that my guess is this is a trade Phoenix wanted to make in the offseason. But then when they saw how wide open the West is right now, even though I think it still does kind of run through Denver, but it'll run through Denver and Phoenix now. And number 2, I think they wanted to have at least 20 games or so where they could play Booker, Paul, Durant, Ayton, see how those 4 mix together. Then they can go into the offseason, possibly an Ayton trade, possibly a Chris Paul trade, anything like that. Or who knows, Booker might be traded in the next 12 hours because that's how it's going right now. But that's my guess is that's why they made the trade right now. Phoenix is like, obviously when you can get Durant, you get Durant, but price might have been a bit lighter in the offseason. I don't know, but I think for them it was worth having that trial period with those 4 guys before maybe resetting the roster in the offseason. I also wouldn't be surprised if they're not done, because if they are going all in this year, is Chris Paul the point guard for that? I don't know. Maybe a Chris Paul for Fred VanVleet trade happens. Obviously, Conley's off the deal. Conley's off the market. Dinwiddie's off the market. Russell's off the market. Russell Westbrook. No. But yeah, maybe they do look to see what a CP3 for Fred VanVleet trade would cost. I don't know. That would be the only player I could think of right now. And maybe they'll just make like one small move just to try and give themselves a bit of depth. Because the other thing you have to realize is Durant and Booker aren't going to be playing all that much over the next 10 games or so. And I'll check where they are at the set. Like, I don't even know where they currently sit in the standings. Obviously, I think they're in that set that are like really close, so it can change overnight. I think currently they're currently the 5 seed, but they're tied for 4 and 6. They're 2.5 games ahead of 10. So like they can overnight, it can swap. Like, that's what it's like in the West at the moment. So they're not a guarantee. Like, if Durant doesn't come back soon, Booker doesn't come back soon, they're not guaranteed to have like a great season this year. If they can get to the playoffs, obviously there's still a danger though. So yeah, Phoenix have traded for Durant. I think it is a great move because, like, as I said, it's the NBA is wide open right now. Durant is a game changer. Durant, Booker, Chris Paul, Ayton, if all healthy, if all playing at the best, they're the best team in the NBA right now. So it's absolutely worth it. I know you had to lose a lot of defense with Mikal Bridges, lose a lot of depth with Johnson and Crowder, but Crowder wasn't playing. They got back TJ Warren. I think that's an underrated part of that. That's a great bench scorer for them. I'm going to guess the starting lineup at the moment is like Paul, Booker, Torrey Craig, Durant, and then Ayton once all healthy. And then TJ Warren slides in as like a 6th man with Campaign, Damian Lee, and then one of Landale or Biyombo off the bench. Like, that's a decent 9-man rotation. That's really, like, obviously it's a great top part of it, but like the 5 through 9, that's decent enough that can play. So yeah, that happened for Phoenix. And then for Brookyln, fire sale. What else can we say? Kyrie's gone. KD's gone. I absolutely don't think they're done dealing. I think they'll definitely try and trade some of their other valuable players this year. I think particularly now that the West, it runs through Durant, so many more teams need a wing stopper in the West than they needed to in the past. So teams like Memphis, teams like even Denver maybe. I could see the Lakers. I could see who else in the West? Dallas, but I don't know if they're re-dealing with Dallas. I could see Golden State. I could see, a lot of those teams, even Sacramento maybe. I could see a lot of them trying to make a trade for one of the Brooklyn's wings, Royce O'Neal, Dorian Finney-Smith, Jay Crowder, Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, Yuta Watanabe. I feel like there's one more that I'm not thinking. Did I say Mikal Bridges? I don't know whether Bridges or Johnson are gettable at this point, but you certainly ask what the price is there. Also, I think this is big for Toronto. A big trade for Toronto. Also, talking about Toronto, I'm just jumping all over the place. I also think the Westbrook trade, which I haven't even got to yet. Westbrook. Lakers fan. Westbrook's finally off my team. I'm so grateful. But Westbrook's gone for, what was that? Westbrook and a first, and Damian Jones and JT Abbott, the salary fillers, to Utah for Vanderbilt and Conley and Beasley. Then Conley's gone to Minnesota for D'Angelo Russell. A couple seconds have gone to Minnesota. I don't know exactly who they're from at this point. I think it's a big day for Toronto because I think a lot of their players who, anyone who's wanting a point guard is we'll go after Conley or VanVleet. Once Kyrie was off the table. Anyone who's going after wings and stuff, they're we'll go after OG or these guys. Well, a lot of those guys have suddenly been traded. So, depending on how Phoenix do the deal, my understanding is that if once a player has been traded, if they haven't finalized the deal, you can turn it into a 3-team trade and trade assets everywhere. Otherwise, it has to just be a 1-for-1 swap. I think that's what Kevin O'Connor was saying about Finney-Smith and Dinwiddie now. They can still be traded today in the next 13 hours. However, they'll have to be 1-for-1. So that's an interesting thing there because OG Anunoby suddenly gets a lot more value, particularly in the West, as we said, with all the teams that are suddenly going to have to go through Durant, possibly. And then on guys like Fred VanVleet, he's gained a lot of value because there really isn't another point guard on the market. And any teams like the Clippers who really want a point guard, you have to go after VanVleet at this point. So, big day for Toronto because their guys just gained a ton of value. Big day as well because, it's just so much to talk about. So, let's talk about the Westbrook trade quickly. So, as I said, Westbrook has gone to Utah where he's going to get bought out. They also got a pick. They gave up Jarrad Vanderbilt, Malik Beasley, and I keep going to say Michael Beasley. Malik Beasley and Mike Conley. Mike Conley then got flipped to Minnesota in exchange for D'Angelo Russell. 3 seconds went to Minnesota. I don't know exactly what those seconds are. For the Lakers, I thought this was a really good trade. As a Lakers fan, I was really happy with this trade. And then suddenly Phoenix got Kevin Durant and it felt sort of pointless going for it in the West. But the thing you have to realize is these guys, they all can be under contract for next year. Russell, we get his bird right, so we can re-sign him. Beasley has a player option. Vanderbilt, I think he has a fully guaranteed or partially guaranteed for next year. So we really can. For the Lakers, it's a great trade because it gives us a team around LeBron and Davis now, which is way better. I still think they need to make another trade for a wing. Hopefully one of those Brookyln wings becomes available. But it also isn't just all in on this season. They can still go into next season. They can get cap space if they want to. More likely though, they can re-sign these guys. They're all pretty young. A D'Angelo Russell for Kyrie Irving sign and trade is still an option, depending if Kyrie does want to get to the Lakers. We can still make that happen with D'Angelo Russell in free agency. D'Lo and Luka, maybe if Kyrie's not going to re-sign with Dallas, they might have to make a deal like that. So, great trade for the Lakers. Gave them way more shooting. I think Beasley is the best piece out of this deal, personally. I know everyone's talking about D'Angelo Russell. I think Beasley is the most valuable piece. His shooting is going to be so important come playoff time. D'Angelo Russell, he's a really good point guard. He's a bit bigger than Westbrook. He's a better shooter, obviously. I think he'll work better off ball than Westbrook ever did. But he's still a great playmaker. I think he'll be better running those non-LeBron minutes because I think he'll work better as a shooter, as a scorer. He can work with rollers like Davis or Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, really versatile defender, good wing. He can play small ball 5. We can use him on the wing depending on what we need. I think it's a really good trade for the Lakers overall. For Utah, is pretty clear. It's just trying to get future assets for expiring deals. They weren't going to be bringing back Conley or Beasley, and Vanderbilt didn't really work with Kessler. So they just wanted to get picks. And I don't know why they only got one pick. I would have thought if you separated that trade, you could have got 2 first-round picks from different places, but probably also the value of a Lakers pretty much unprotected first. It's protected 1 through 4, I think, was my understanding. And then it immediately turns into a second if it does land in that top 4 in that same year. So it's 2027, protected 1 to 4. If it lands outside that, Utah get it. If it lands in that, they get a second-round pick that year. I believe that's how it works. So maybe that Lakers pick just holds more value than getting 2 lottery-protected picks from 2 different teams going to sending a couple guys to the Knicks and a couple guys here, whatever. So I thought they could have got more from him, but I'm going to guess if there were more out there, they would have gotten it. So maybe that was the best available, and it is a good first-round pick to get, and it opens up minutes for the young guys. And then for Minnesota, Mike Conley for D'Angelo Russell is a weird swap, but I think it's a worthwhile swap. I think Conley, it'll be good having someone, that veteran presence who has that real playoff experience in there. He has that experience with Rudy Gobert, which I think will be really valuable. That'll work well. And yeah, I think he's got more. It's like $15 million guaranteed for next year. Maybe they just didn't think they were going to be re-signing Russell, and they can just, if they bring back Conley, they can just extend their decision until another year. I'm going to guess that's their thought process. So, bit of a weird trade for Minnesota. I didn't really understand why you'd go that, but it does work. You want that veteran there. I thought Utah might have been able to get a bit more, but still good. And I think it's a great trade for the Lakers. So you would have thought the Lakers were the biggest winners of today, but I think it is Phoenix, because they've got Kevin Durant, and a team that has Kevin Durant plus TJ Warren, as I said. I think really underrated piece of that. I just can't believe Kevin Durant's been traded. I don't know what's happening in Brooklyn. Other things that happened today, Jakob Poeltl, another big part of the Toronto thing. Poeltl got traded to Toronto for, I think it was Kem Birch and a first and a second. I don't know the exact details on that. I'll try and quickly look it up. Coming home, gone out for a walk. I'd seen that happen. I'll get home and look up what happened there. And then before I had a chance, Kevin Durant got traded as I got to my front door. And I was just, yeah, I wasn't really thinking about Jakob Poeltl at that point. Here we are. A protected 2024 first round pick, and then 2 future second round picks are what was in that trade. So that's a big deal, actually, because I think it shows that the Raptors aren't just going to tank, which some people were thinking they might. But I think the East also got a bit more open with Brookyln trading Durant and Irving. So we've got a lot more open, but still have to deal with Boston and Milwaukee. But then you have to think about, for Toronto, you're not going to play, Poeltl's on a 1-year deal, so if they've traded a first for him, they're totally re-signing him going forward. So they're thinking, you're a part of our franchise, and he wants 15 mil, so you're only paying that if he's going to be your starting center going forward. You're not starting OG Anunoby, Scotty Barnes, Siakam, and Poeltl. You don't trade for Poeltl if you're going to bring him off the bench for 1 year. So he's in there. So one of OG, Barnes, or Siakam, I reckon is going to go, and I reckon it has to be OG Anunoby. Might be Siakam, but I reckon it's more likely OG gets traded. Where he gets traded, I think Memphis would still be my number 1 pick. Maybe New Orleans, I've heard. I think it was Chris Haynes was reporting that. I heard on his podcast with Mark Stein. The Warriors might have a go at it. I think a lot more teams will be interested in him now in the Western Conference because of Durant. So even at Denver, but I don't think they can get there without including players that are too valuable to them. I really don't know. Maybe Sacramento, but you really want to trade Keegan Murray? I don't think so. So yeah, I think OG Anunoby I do see getting traded somewhere. I don't know exactly where, but I don't think they're not playing Anunoby, Barnes, Siakam, and Poeltl. And if they're traded Poeltl, he's not the odd man out. So it has to be one of those other 3. I reckon it's Anunoby, maybe it's Siakam, and for Siakam it would be similar trades there. Be interesting to wait and see what's going to happen in the next 12 hours if it does. So that happened. For San Antonio, I think that was a really good return. I don't think they could have got a first in a sign and trade, and they didn't want to bring him back. He didn't really fit their timeline. I don't think he is, as I think it was Nate Duncan was saying on his podcast, I don't think he is as great of a center as people think he is at the moment. So he's not worth paying 15 mil if you're a bad team, and you're not we want to make sure he's there for the future. It's nah, you can get another center like Poeltl at some point. So I think it was a great deal to get a first round pick for him. Yeah, so there's a lot's been going on, but to round it all back, Durant has been traded. I think everything now has to go through Durant. Everything goes through the perspective of Durant has been traded. Every other team in the West, every trade is now... I think there will be a bit of a lull because suddenly teams have to reevaluate. Like a Western Conference team, they're like, oh, we're fine. Suddenly, Durant. A team like Portland. Also, that was the other trade. Josh Hart got traded to New York for a first-round pick in Cam Reddish. Great trade for New York, I reckon. Seems like a Tibbs sort of guy. Saw the stuff with him and Jalen Brunson, Villanova teammate, so that'll be really cool. And I think that's a really good lineup there. If you're running like, what's their starting lineup going to be? Is it going to be Brunson, Hart, Barrett, Randall, Robinson once he's healthy? That's a really good starting five. I think it was a great trade for New York. Interesting to see what Portland do now, because whether that was to clear up cap space to go after time, but now with Kevin Durant traded, you can't. With the Kevin Durant trade, are they like, oh, it's not really worth going all in the West this year? We're going to take a year off. Does that mean Jeremy Grant is available for trades? Because he's in the final year of his contract. If you're not bringing him back, another guy that, not a Durant stopper, but is a guy that can slow down Durant, so it would be really valuable in the West. I really don't know what's going to happen. My picks for the rest of this, for the next 12 hours, would be OG Anunoby gets traded. I think to Memphis would be my guess. I think they'll want to shore themselves up. It'll be something built around either Danny Green or Dylan Brooks as the main contract, and then one of the young guys, 2 first-round picks maybe. I think Brookyln do go more fire sale, trade some of their wings. I think the Lakers do get involved. I think they get one of them. I think I'd just be surprised if the Lakers don't try and get one of O'Neal or Finney-Smith or one of those guys, Jay Crowder, any of those vets. And I think they'll trade 2 or 3 of those guys at some point across this season. Other teams, I think the Warriors, I really don't know. I think with Steph's injury, now having to go through KD, they might take a bit of a back seat this year. They might say, let's wait a year. Who else is there? The Clippers, I think they definitely make a trade. I think it's VanVleet would be my guess, but to Toronto trade VanVleet and OG, I don't know. If not, I really don't know because they don't need more wings. Talks of them maybe signing Russell Westbrook. I don't think that really moves the needle enough for me. I think they need to get another point guard, but if it's not VanVleet, who else is out there right now who is gettable? I doubt they can get Chris Paul. I don't think Phoenix would be wanting to do that sort of deal for him at the moment. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting. If I had to pick, talking about like the main guys that have been talked about, okay, just rapid fire. VanVleet, I say he gets traded just because there's no other point guards, and I think someone will overpay. Because of that, I think Gary Trent stays. I think OG Anunoby gets traded. I think other guys, I think guys like Zach LaVine might get traded, but I think he stays because I don't think he moves the needle enough for a Western Conference team. Who else has been on the trade market a lot? I think one of the San Antonio guys might go, like Josh Richardson. He'll get traded, but they're more minor moves. They're the real big 3. We're probably left of the guys in Toronto. Interesting to see what happens with them. Obviously, the Utah guys have been traded. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. I think there'll be a lot of minor moves, and I think a lot of teams will try to get wing depth now with Durant going to the West. I think that would be the big thing you see. Be interesting. I think OG gets traded. And also with Brookyln, I think if I had to pick 3 of Crowder, O'Neal, and maybe Cam Johnson get moved. Something like that. But it's going to be very interesting to see. Interesting to see how this plays out with Durant in Phoenix. Maybe there's another big move. Maybe Giannis gets traded. I don't know. I was not ready to hear Durant's name or read Durant's name on my phone as being traded. It'll be really interesting to see what happens. Comment below your thoughts, depending on when you're seeing this. Obviously, more details might have come out. I'm recording this at 7:16 Melbourne time, Melbourne, Australia time, 7:16 p.m. I think it's 11 hours to the deadline at this point. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in the next 11 hours. Comment below what your thoughts are. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't seen this channel before, like and subscribe. We're going to be doing a lot more videos, particularly now. I want to do some post-trade deadline videos going forward. So please feel free to comment what you'd like to see. Subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you next time. But for now, adios.